Greetings nerdy list aficionados and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. I'm Sash and today we've got an interesting one. We're going to be talking about superpowers, who has them and how much sense do they make. There are some powers that are either a bit more conceptual than others, or they just are implemented in stories in such a way that it can be a bit hard for new readers to understand just exactly what is going on. So today we're going to take a look at a bunch with the caveat you may know how all of these work. In that case, congratulate yourself on your comic book prowess. In the meantime, we're going to take a look at the top 10 superheroes with powers that nobody understands. Number 10. JUBILEE. Poor JUBILEE, so often the butt of so many X-Men jokes, and she's also placed on so many lists of most useless X-Men or labeled as the one who shoots fireworks from her fingers. In all fairness, some of that came from the 90s animated intro where that was literally her introduction. And in the comics, she does herself call them her fireworks. But because of the connotation people have with fireworks, they equate that with being harmless, which is not true in either capacity. Fireworks are far from harmless. JUBILEE first appeared in the Uncanny X-Men number 244 back in 1989, and her powers are more than they appear at first glance. In reality, she generates pyrotechnic energy plasmoids from her hands, and they are far from random. She has mental control over them and can send them where she wants and have them explode on command. She can also control the intensity. They can either be bright flashes of light, just designed to disorient, or they can be powerful blasts that can destroy things and cause damage. She can also target the inside of a human brain and cause a stroke, and afterwards, she reabsorbs the energy into herself. It was revealed by Emma Frost that JUBILEE actually has a lot of untapped potential and could maybe one day detonate her energy at a subatomic level, which would cause mass destruction. So she's one of those secretly really powerful mutants, so watch out. We're also just talking about her as regular JUBILEE, not vampire JUBILEE or Wondra. Number 9. Domino. Now, since the release of 2018's Deadpool 2, more people are aware of Domino and her luck powers. But what are they actually? Because depending upon the writer, even they don't seem to know exactly how to implement them. Domino made her first full appearance in X-Force number 11 in June of 1992, and what her powers really are a subconscious psionic ability to telekinetically affect the outcomes of probability in her favor. So she calls it luck, but really it's her manipulating her own environment with her latent powers. Her abilities are activated when she is in stressful situations, which in her line of work boils down to essentially all of the time. However, in order for these to work, Domino has to actually be involved in what's going on, so she can't just sit there and alter things from afar. She's not the Scarlet Witch. As her abilities also impact her, they impact how she moves in her environment. So that means her telekinesis impacts her reflexes and agility as well, causing her to appear enhanced, and she does operate on a superhuman level because of all this. There have been periods in time where she can control her abilities. It really depends on who's writing her. Number 8. Matter Eater Lad. Now you may be saying, these powers seem pretty simple, he eats matter, it's right there in the name. And yes, that is true. What people have more trouble with here is how exactly would these powers be useful at all? He first appeared in 1962 in Adventure Comics number 303. Because of poisoning on his home world, his people have had to adapt to be able to consume anything, and yes, they were from the planet Bismol, as in Pepto. Hilarious. The thing is, yes, he can eat anything, but when is this useful? Is it for escapes? Can he consume MacGuffins? It's the kind of ability you need to work to get into a story, and apparently most writers felt that way as well, because the character has largely disappeared. Post Infinite Crisis, he's been pretty much absent in the DC universe, and dare I say, potentially not that missed. I'm sure those who do miss him will let me know down below. Number 7. Squirrel Girl. Now let's start off by saying being on this list is not a dig. People get really defensive about Squirrel Girl. Don't even talk about her. Don't even look at her. Who are you to breathe her air? How dare you? She beat Dr. Doom. Squirrel Girl was first introduced in Marvel Superheroes Volume 2, number 8 in 1991, and at first she was a bit of a joke character. There's actually a version that appears in a Tick episode of the animated series from the 90s, The Tick vs. Education, which is a great episode featuring Sarcastro.
I like squirrels.
What?
That's my battle cry. Villain, I like squirrels.
But back to Marvel's version. Over the years, this character has grown to be an established part of the Marvel mythos, and she has been utilized in a variety of ways. So her powers, prehensile tail and buck teeth aside, which are attributes not abilities, but I digress as she did use them as a squirrel would. When she first appeared, she listed everything she could do. She has the agility of a squirrel, the claws of a squirrel, retractable knuckle spikes about 3 inches long, so watch out Wolverine. And while she can communicate with squirrels, which is what most people remember, she doesn't do it telepathically. Instead, she just understands their speech, and they can understand her as well. Over time, she had more abilities added, heightened reflexes, lips that taste like hazelnuts. She was a mutant, then she wasn't one. It's a lot, but now you know. The most important takeaway? Definitely the hazelnut lips. Number 6. Hindsight Lad. This is another one of those ones where it's like, when would you need this? I mean, I can think of one applicable use, and that's if you were trapped in a time loop and he was the one person who remembered it. So Hindsight Lad is Carlton Lefroy. He first appeared in New Warriors Annual Volume 1 Number 3. Here's the thing, he doesn't really have powers per se, he's just a skilled tactician, and he was a skilled researcher. So he could look at situations that had passed and be like, this is what went wrong. Like many people, you too could be Hindsight Lad. The reason he's on here is because people think it's a power, like Captain Hindsight from South Park. He flies in as like Spider-Man, you should have changed your web cartridges before this battle. But really it's more he sits at a computer and replays everything like a football coach. Yeah, like Matter Eater Lad, he doesn't get a lot of playtime these days either. Number 5. The Tick. The Tick has powers, he says so all the time. He's nigh invulnerable. But what does that mean? The Tick was created by Ben Edlund and first appeared in New England Comics Newsletter number 14 back in 1986. He's a parody-esque superhero and fights crime in The City, and his strength is never fully defined. In the comics, he is full-on an escaped mental patient. In the 2016 series, he claims his strength is 10, perhaps 20 men, a crowded bus stop of men. So when it comes to non-vulnerability, it means it's pretty much impossible to hurt him. He feels pain, particularly in his antenna, but the threshold is not consistent. He can survive being hit by a train, but depending upon the issue, villains can just knock him out. He also has something called drama power, meaning he gets more powerful the more dramatic a situation gets, and with the Tick, you know it's gonna get mighty dramatic. So in short, his powers being perfectly defined is less important than the story surrounding them. He is more of a comedic character after all. Also, give me your favorite animated episode. Mine is The Tick vs. Comfort. And shout out to Batmanuel and Deflator Mouse, who I love equally. Number 4. Karma. Karma is one of the newer mutants to have been created. She first appeared in Marvel Team Up number 100 back in 1980, and one can guess based on her name that we're getting into psionic and empathic territory, but it's darker than her name would suggest. Karma can possess animals and people, and she doesn't need to be close to them to do it. So in short, terrifying. She projects psionic energy so that her consciousness overwhelms the hosts, rendering it dormant. Then she can alter their perception or memories, force them to fall asleep or give her information, manipulate their bodies, and use them as puppets. She used to only be able to do this for a short time, but she's gotten better. She can now possess multiple people at once. So no, nothing to do with like, oh, they were bad, so she causes bad luck for them. No, just pure terror. I can't see these powers being used for good, even on villains. This just seems super unethical, unless all you do is go to sleep. The trauma for victims must be absolutely enormous. I'm scared of Karma, man. Terrified. Number 3. Cable. So Cable is pretty well known, especially after Deadpool 2 introduced him to the mainstream. But sometimes his abilities get a little lost in his backstory and also his appearance. So Cable first debuted as Cable in the New Mutants number 87 back in 1990. He had appeared as Nathan Summers in the Uncanny X-Men number 201 back in 1986. He is the son of Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor, the clone of Jean Grey. He was sent to be raised in the future and grew up in an era hunted by Apocalypse. His metal arm is the result of a techno-organic virus that is only kept from consuming him by his extremely potent telekinetic powers. He's also a telepath on top of this, and an extremely powerful one. These last two abilities can sometimes be glossed over or utilized in such a way that for new readers it can be mistaken for tech, and depending upon the era they might not be wrong. At first he wasn't as powerful because he was fighting off the virus all the time, but as that receded he's now pretty much on par with Nate Gray. Why this is confusing is that for a time he had lost his mutant abilities and was using tech, but then got his mutant powers back, and this losing and gaining plot has been done multiple times. So this is less a question of how does it work and more a question of what era is it and what is going on. For example, he might have precognition but nothing else, or all his abilities, or he has the virus or he's cured. It's a lot. Number 2. Dazzler. So Dazzler is getting an animated series alongside Tigra, so that will be interesting. Marvel is determined that they will take Dazzler away from her roller skating record company tie-in origins. Dazzler first appeared in the Uncanny X-Men number 130 in 1980, and all of this was supposed to lead to a tie-in film with Bo Derek that never happened. So Dazzler is able to, and I quote, transduce sonic vibrations, which reach her body in various types of light. This means she transforms the energy that reaches her into vibrations, and that can be mechanical, acoustic, acoustic or thermal. Although, really we need to reverse some of this. Dazzler utilizes her ability through music, and that quote should really say that all of this leaves her body through light. So she can pull the sound away from a person to recharge herself, and she radiates light at different frequencies as she so chooses. But she has to pay attention, otherwise she'll just be creating white flashes everywhere. So how does she use her powers? Well, 1. Hypnosis. She can create a trance-like state in people, and she has done this at her concerts to make people have a good time, which again is terrifying, and it makes me think maybe she can't even sing. That's so shady. Anyway, she can also upset people's balance, generate laser beams and fire them with her fingers or eyes, create a shield to deflect energy beams. She herself cannot be blinded by light. She can create holograms. See, there's a reason that Galactus considered her for his herald. I'm actually not done, but we'd be here all day. Dazzler can actually be utilized in really interesting ways, so there is potential there. Just they need to focus it, because there's a lot going on. I think she needs a hologram of herself that performs while she fights crime like Nightman. I don't know, I think Dazzler could be really cool. I can hear the comments now. Dazzler is cool, how dare you. And number 1 in the powers people don't understand department, Scarlet Witch. So Wanda Maximoff first appeared in the X-Men number 4 back in 1964, and at first her powers were pretty vague. They were hex powers. She was a witch, but that was in name only, as her powers were mutant ones. Her hexes specifically affected probability, causing bizarre events to take place, often not in the favor of those she was fighting. Over time she would gain control over these hexes, but she was also trained in this by a witch, despite being a mutant. This way she could now control mystic artifacts, and she learned to wield magic on top of her abilities that she already had. Later writer Kurt Busiek would retcon her powers to say her mutation was that she controlled chaos magic. And then Avengers Disassembled happened, and her powers were retconned again to reality warping abilities. And this is what most people remember, because this storyline was famous and led to the No More Mutants in House of M, the whole 9 yards. However, her powers have been retweaked to chaos magic or mutant magic. The most recent addition is that she was born a witch, and then the High Evolutionary genetically altered her to make her more receptive to magic. So I think why she's on here is clear. It just won't stop changing. It's like Wonder Girl's backstory. So those were 10 superheroes with powers people don't understand. Who is a character with powers you don't understand or just find odd? Let me know down below. Thanks so much for watching Top 10 Nerd. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you again soon. Bye bye.